But yeah, and then like the fixins they had with it, it was a lot of mayonnaise. It was just kind of like, hey.
What other countries think of us?
Yeah, well,
so
and then
funny.
like the American like breakfast, like American continental breakfast in Rome was a wheel of Parmesan, eggs, and then little tiny hot dog weenies. So it's like they just gave us the eggs and the weenies, and then they were like, here's a whole block of cheese to kind of like make it make sense, I guess.
It just makes it make less sense.
Yeah, it was. It's just very funny when other countries are like, Americans like this, and it's just like, it's just uncanny valley a little bit because it's like not quite there.
There's a bit that we'll get to on Arrested Development where there's like a Little Britain neighborhood, and there's like an American restaurant, and it's so over the top. It's like humongous portions.
I'm sure.
It's
Is
so
it just
funny.
Cheesecake Factory?
No, it's like a little mom and pop thing. It's very funny.
Ugh.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen.
And I'm Rachel.
And this is So I'm Watching A Discovery of Witches, Season 3, Episode 2.
Woo! I just really need Matthew to chill the fuck out. Everything is so deadly serious.
Yeah.
And I just chill out, man. I know everything feels very, very dire, but he just can't seem to shake out of that 15th century attitude. And I don't know what it is.
Yeah, well, there was that really, really great scene with Phoebe and Marcus where so basically the overall is that we get... No, you're totally right. You're totally right. But I want to like do some backstory before we get to the scene with Marcus and Phoebe. We get Jack back, the little boy that they kind of like adopted in the 1600s. He has the blood rage. And so they're trying to get like around that or whatever. And it turns out that I thought it was Benjamin. I was wrong. It turns out he is the one that's been killing all the people around London. And I guess it's because he's been looking for Matthew and Diana.
Well, I mean, was it not Benjamin?
Sure, because Benjamin absolutely like brainwashed him.
Yeah, it was
like
100% on his behest that Jack acted like that.
100%. And so like honestly, I really loved like Father Hubbard like tried to take him under his wing, and but like because Benjamin was Father Hubbard's sire, he was like couldn't control any of it. So he feels really bad about it. And basically Baldwin, who also continues to need to take a fucking chill pill,
just the worst,
is like, Matthew, you need to kill him. It was him. But I do love Jack got a bite out of Baldwin.
Yeah, he did.
Amazing.
I was surprised that he stopped because I thought that Baldwin was a goner for sure.
No, because if I'm remembering the books correctly, I think Baldwin has to come around by like the end of the season. When we get to the point, like, Matthew's going after Jack, and Diana is like, you literally can't kill him. He's our son. Like, you can't do that. It's like horrible. Marcus and Phoebe have this really great conversation where he's like, you know, Matthew is a 16th century patriarch. There's a way that things are done. And Phoebe's like, that's cool and all, except for that Diana is a 21st century witch. And so Matthew is going to have to...
They're going to have to be in the middle, guys.
You're going to have to figure it out. Which I totally agree. And I think Diana obviously is changing him, you know, softening him and making him better and more rounded and everything. But it just is the kind of thing where they like ripped through this like courtship and relationship and everything. I mean, it's been like, what, 6 months?
Yeah.
A year
real
quick. Absolute max a year. Because I don't remember how long they're in the past for. There's so many things going on because they're trying to find a cure for blood rage, in which case if they killed Jack now, it's sort of like, you know, someone who dies of cancer like 1 week before they make like a discovery that something is, you know, there's a new treatment that you can use or whatever, which totally blows.
Well, and also Matthew has conquered his blood rage.
Right.
And
with the help of Fernando,
Marcus,
apparently.
Yeah. And so it can be handled.
Yeah.
It's just so I don't understand why they're being so cavalier about just killing Jack.
Well, Baldwin is he's still up the congregation's butt. And I like, that's the whole thing for me is like the congregation just needs to, it does need to be dissolved.
I agree. Because
it's so outdated and there's no way to move forward or be unified in any way. And
the world's too big for seven people to be on a congregation together. I mean,
it's nine.
There
it's like 3 of each.
Yeah. Yeah. Math. but it's just the world at this point is too large. I can imagine having this back in the, you know, the 16th century, whatever, because the world is like this big.
And when Italy was like the center of everything.
Right.
100%. But they're so far beyond that. And there's so many like just different obstacles that they have to overcome. And like, it seems so far past a time for them to unify, because there's really like the witches and the vampires are equally dangerous to one another, but like the demons are the ones that are really getting the raw end of the stick, because
seriously,
they can't even really defend themselves. They don't have magic. They don't have special powers. They just are, it's all in their brain.
Well, and didn't Agatha allude to the fact that they're only allowed a certain amount of their power?
I took that to mean political power, but you could be right. I don't know if they're like not allowed to access everything that they have.
I feel like I remember there was a conversation with I keep calling him Matthew's footman and I don't remember his name, but so the
Gallowglass.
No, not Gallowglass, the other guy. Like the
Hamish.
butler. Yeah.
Hamish.
Because I feel like he alluded to him not being able to fully practice his, or like fully show what he had, because then they were afraid they'll descend into madness.
Well, so it's partially that, but it's also partially to keep the humans in the dark, because the humans don't know that any of this exists. And I think the demons are the closest to the humans. And so it's like, if they were to truly let all of their powers like manifest, they'd be like too good at stuff. And I think that's...
Got it.
I think that's what it is.
Got it.
So it's like, I think Hamish is like at the very far like edge of what he's supposed to be doing, because he like kind of like owns the financial district of London,
right? And
that's how he like helps Matthew keep all of his stuff going. Yeah, so that's basically the gist of all of that stuff that's happening. Benjamin does fucking call Matthew. Okay, Matthew and Marcus and Jack are going to New Orleans to try to round up all of Marcus's children and grandchildren that survived the culling.
And I have a question about that, because I thought when Marcus brought that to the table, I mean, I thought I was paying attention, but apparently I wasn't. I thought that Matthew turned down the idea of having a scion.
I don't think we have a choice anymore.
Okay.
Because you're right, though, because here's my question, is at the end of season 1, they were reestablishing the Knights of Lazarus. And I'm like, can't we still be using the Knights of Lazarus? Has that gone by the wayside? Because that feels like an old established thing that we should be utilizing as well.
I feel like Matthew might have ADD because he keeps leaving unfinished projects before he moves on to the next one.
So he has ADD, but because he doesn't have a human lifespan, he has a vampire lifespan. The ADD does still last. Everything lasts like 2 weeks instead of like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So he gets some stuff accomplished and then just like leaves it by the side.
Yeah. So I thought when they had the conversation when Marcus brought up the scion thing, and so he was like, yeah, but that's not going to work. And then he like clapped Marcus on the shoulder, and like Marcus has his head down like this. But then all anyone's talking about, like, no, we have to create the scion. And I was like, when did we decide that was happening?
I mean, they do in order to get out from under Baldwin's thumb, but I think they need more support in order to make it happen.
Well, so my whole thing is like, okay, so you have the congregation.
Oh, well, you're right. So I only have the description for episode 1, but it says Marcus, at the suggestion of Gallowglass, Marcus proposes they form an offshoot of the family called a scion, but Matthew rejects the idea. So you're correct about that, but I think now they just have to.
So where's that scene where he was like, you know what? Hands are tied, gotta do it. I don't know. It's okay. But so why is it taking this long? And I don't know if maybe it's just because they're so far in the past, they don't want to move forward, but why is there not like a creature UN where we have different congregations in like each major territory and then they would all like come together? I just feel like this is really, really late to all of a sudden have this congregation of 9 people like crumbling.
Like, sure. Okay. I definitely
because
get what you mean.
You don't mean to tell me that Chabert at no point in the like millennia that he's been alive
has ever been challenged
and hadn't ever been like, fuck off, I'm gonna make my own, and then go off to like somewhere else to create his own faction.
Yeah, I definitely get it. In that sense, the only thing I would say is that like Chabert and Domenico and Baldwin are the vampires on the council. And so they are from all different, like, areas, I guess. But I don't know. I agree with you. Like, why isn't there, like, a London congregation?
Yeah. And,
I get it.
You know, why? So they're going to New Orleans.
Agatha and her frequent flyer miles.
I know. But, you know, like they're going to New Orleans because apparently there's like a whole ass hub there. So why don't they just create? Because, I mean, we know with that, they're not going to say it now, or I don't know, maybe we'll get some New Orleans witches. But like, well, there's a shit ton of magic in New Orleans already. So, and that's in like real life. So why would they not kind of do that there? You know, so that could be like the American hub. And I don't know. This all just seems very like, just very short-sighted.
I agree. I mean, I think they would still have to have like a centralized one that like stayed in Venice. Like the Venice one would have to be like the overarching one.
Yeah, the UN.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think we're going to get there because I don't think there's anything like that in the books.
Yeah, we don't have enough time.
But
so I know. I'm picking a thread. I understand that. But I'm just kind of like, guys,
I agree that we could do something like that and potentially should do something like that, but it's just sort of at this point it's like I think it's too late for that even.
And I mean, so is this just been like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of just people resenting the de Claremonts, and it's like now is the time that we're gonna just like really try to throw them off the throne?
Yeah.
Oy.
It's super annoying, super ridiculous. I don't totally get it. I don't totally like it.
Is it because Philippe's gone? Because Philippe had the chokehold on everybody and everyone was scared of Philippe, and because he was killed in World War II, now it's like they've been kind of like forming plans for the last
60, 70 years. I mean, maybe, but
I don't know either.
It's bizarre. It's super bizarre. I don't love it. The politics of the show is interesting to me, but it's also it's something that was in the books as well. I sort of feel like it should have focused more on one thing than the other, because there's a lot of the politics in the books as well, and then you've got the like science-y stuff that like Diana and Matthew and Miriam are trying to do, and they don't really, because it feels like it's kind of all running out the clock, because right now the science-y stuff is trying to figure out a cure for blood rage, but they're also trying to figure out how like the two demons made a witch, you know, a witch baby. Like, that's bizarre. The congregation is just so clinging so hard to this idea that all of the creature species are separate. And it's like, but they're just not really. And so it's just sort of stupid and old fashioned, and it just like doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And so I don't like that. And then
everything just feels very half baked because we're doing too much. Because I agree. Yeah. I find the political stuff very fascinating, but at this point, I would rather focus on finding the cure for the blood rage.
Right.
Especially because now 2 twin babies have entered the chat, and it's like, what's going to happen with them?
Well, I do love too that Matthew's like, we have only weeks to figure out this cure. And I'm like, are they going to come out bloodthirsty? Are they going to like be running around like immediately?
I mean, maybe the fear is that when they come out, they're going to want to eat Diana.
I mean,
and then, or maybe that like
just take them away.
Or what if they get, like, if they're that close in their, like, growth period, like, right before they're born, they just start eating her from the inside out.
I mean,
so many options. Who knows? I don't know.
Who knows?
Yeah. And so I just feel like if we had more time, like, I feel like if we had one more season, then I feel like this season could maybe be the political season. And then next season could be the science-y season.
Or vice versa. Because, like, if they were to find the cure and figure out some of this genetic stuff, then the political stuff would almost be rendered moot. They could be like, well, scientifically, we fixed this. And also, we're all a lot more related than you think.
Yeah.
Forget it.
Well, and then because there's so much going on, Marcus and Phoebe just seem like such an afterthought, because all of their scenes are just kind of like, don't forget.
Yeah.
Don't forget. By the way, don't forget. And especially because it's all taking place in that one bedroom. And I mean, maybe it's just because of scheduling and like filming because of COVID and all that stuff. But it just is like Marcus is in the room, and then Phoebe walks into the room, and then they have a conversation, and then it cuts to somewhere else. Yeah. And then they're back in the room, and Phoebe walks in the room, and then she crosses over to the bed and sits down.
Yeah.
So it just all, I just feel like we're running out of time. But we have plenty of time to watch Matthew Good just sulk and walk very slowly. When he was going after Jack, and so he's standing on top of the bridge and like searching to find him, and then he hears him, and then he turns, and I was like, all right, 3 slow strides. And I'm like, but then he's going to go, psh. But no. He just continues
regular
to walk
walking.
like this. And I'm like, this is a very like time sensitive matter. Why are you just strolling off to find him?
The other thing is we
also haven't gotten any growling yet. And I'm very upset about that.
That's true. It's not growled at all this season. The other thing is that we're wasting time with, in my opinion, when we could be like getting further and other stuff, is there is like a whole ass 5-minute scene where Matthew, Marcus, and Jack are at the airport leaving for New Orleans, and Benjamin calls, which is bad enough. But then, as if we don't already comprehend and understand how bad this blood rage is, we've seen the murders as they've happened. Benjamin, doesn't even force him because it's just on the phone. Matthew could have hung up at any moment, but we have this like 5-minute scene of like Benjamin videotaping Jack killing an old couple.
And videotaping himself manipulating Jack
into doing it.
Yeah. And then, so, like you said, they're in the airport and he's just watching
it on his laptop.
Like, if you already know, problem solved.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
So,
I mean, granted, it is an opportunity to get to listen to Mezzanine by Massive Attack because that song is a fucking bop.
That's fine. But the thing for me is that it's narratively, it's not doing anything for me. I already know that Jack has blood rage. I already know that he's been doing these murders around London. That is confirmed. We've seen photographic evidence of that. We've seen an actual attack with our own eyeballs.
And we also are confirmed that Benjamin made Jack crazy.
Yeah. So like that 5 minutes of screen time doesn't do anything that we didn't already know. Yeah. And no one needs a button put on that. We all already know. The whole episode, Jack's behavior is trying to overcome the blood rage. He can't be around Diana because he's afraid he's going to kill her. And that's why Matthew is taking him to New Orleans, because he won't leave him with Diana. Like, it serves no purpose, that scene at the end. It was just like really bizarre. And it again, like you said, it wasted time. It took us away from stuff we could have been doing more of, which specifically going back to Matthew and Miriam and Chris doing their stuff. And they were just sort of like, Miriam and Chris are like, we cannot do this any faster unless we tell more people. And Matthew is like, absolutely not. And Diana and Miriam both are like, it's never going to, we're always limiting ourselves by keeping it so within our group or whatever. We have to let more people know. Wisely, they made them sign an NDA.
And I said to Kristen, I was like, I feel like the teeny fine print is like, if you break this NDA, we will eat you.
You will be eaten. So that's really good. And then they basically do tell this whole like crew of grad students, essentially, I'm a vampire, she's a witch.
Miriam is also a vampire. Yeah.
Our shit is breaking down and you need to figure out why. And the grad students, like, one of them laughed, but they mostly are sort of like, okay.
Well, because I feel like for scientists, that would be really exciting because they called a chromosome a CC, which is the creature chromosome, which I think is actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
So, and it would be, for me, if I was really into science like that, I would be extremely fascinated.
Yeah.
But so they made a point to be like, who has questions? And literally everybody raised their hands.
As you would imagine. So the only other thing that we really get is Fernando kind of confronts Gallowglass and is like, I know you're in love with Diana and you need to cut it out.
Sure.
Just sort of just like crowbarred in there.
Which, I mean, Gallowglass, okay. I mean, the first bit of like inkling that I would have noticed that he was in love with her was that very scene because his face got really soft. And I mean,
because he's talking to Jack and he's like, the other thing that you have to remember is that you have Diana on your side and she wouldn't let anything happen to you. And it's just sort of like, it's very sweet. And it's like, he fell in love with her in the 1600s and has been like essentially waiting for her this whole time.
Yeah.
And he was like tasked with keeping her safe. And so he has been in the shadows of her life the whole time.
I want one.
Oh God, he's so
that'd be so great.
The thing is like, he fully knows. He's like, well, Matthew is her mate. Like, that's nothing. Like, I know nothing can happen, but like, for now, I have to stay here. So, I mean, it's like, he knows. I don't know.
I don't know. I feel like this is a little bit of a silly question, but is Fernando like super vampire empathic and so he can pick up on it, or is there like a scent situation?
It seems like it because Jack said that Fernando is the one who helped Matthew overcome his blood rage. So he must be able to kind of like get in there and be like, hey.
Because, I mean, I don't think that Gallowglass has made it extremely apparent that he would be in love with Diana, so he would kind of have to like have the spidey senses.
Sure. I think he probably does. Unfortunately, I don't remember. I could look because I still have the books on my phone, but I don't know if there is like a nice little text at the end, like in Twilight, that tells you who everybody is and what their powers are.
Yeah.
Which I really appreciated about Twilight.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that is pretty much it. So, no, it's not. Satu and Peter Knox had a good scene, and Satu was like, "You can't control me anymore. I'm a weaver." Mm-hmm. So she and Diana are both weavers.
And I love that, like, anytime that there's a prophecy, it just, someone has to say the prophecy at somebody else.
Yeah.
Because he says, like, beware the witch or whatever with the power of the lion and the wolf. And she was like, you think that it was Diana. And she was like, I am the weaver. And I'm like, well, there's two weavers.
You're both.
Surprise.
Yeah, you're both the weaver.
Yeah.
And it's obviously Diana.
Yeah.
It's like not Satu.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, we've been hearing that before because it was, wasn't it Javert had that head, that witch head?
Oh yeah, the seer,
and she's the one that kept saying, "Beware the witch" with the lion and the wolf. Mm-hmm. So that's been coming and going for a while, but yeah, I agree.
I forgot about that. What a bummer for that poor witch.
Satu let her die.
Yeah. I just woof.
Which was nice.
Yeah.
I am interested to see. Satu is really interesting to me because she was like hard evil in season 1, and she kind of was like a few different things, and Peter Knox kept trying to smack her down in season 2. And I am interested to see where she goes because I think she could kind of go either way. And
I agree. Yeah. I mean, because Peter really wanted to curate her into a weapon for him to wield, and she is not that at all. So I find her very fascinating. I would like to spend more time with her, but we don't have enough time.
No, there's only 5 episodes left, so I guess.
My God.
We'll see. I know, it feels like we're like, whoosh.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Melt my face off with the speed at which we're flying.
Yeah. All right, so we will be back next week with episode 3.
Bye.
Bye.